And the idea of losing something or losing everything twice, I can't even begin to describe it. Yeah. So luckily, when they rescued, would you like to hear the story of rescue?
I would love to hear that.
So watching the water go down the street, I see a keg go floating down Main Street. I'm like, somebody lost a keg. Then I see a cluster of 4 kegs. And I was like, wait a minute. And the water's getting higher and higher. And I had a planter out front. And all of a sudden there was this wave that just washed over this big, heavy planter. And it was like a magician. Poof, it was gone. And instantly the water was up to my steps, up to the door. And I'm like, okay, this is bad. This is really bad. And I felt the house shake when the foundation went. I didn't know what it was. There's a picture of me sitting in my doorway, swinging my feet. Looking down because that hole was still filled with water. So I didn't know just how deep it was. And as the water started to recede, I see bubbling, and it's a gas line break. Yeah. So I'm writing. I grabbed a notebook, and I'm writing with a Sharpie, holding up signs from the door because the cell tower that was on the flour mill went down. So we couldn't even reach 911. We couldn't reach anyone. The residents, we have a 2-way emergency communication system with 2-way radios. And that's how we radioed out to friends that we need help. And this is what it's like. So the fire and rescue went in to someone's apartment 3 doors up, came out on the rooftops, down the roof, walked down, went into the antique store next door, and used an axe to chop a hole in my bedroom wall that was 2 feet wide and 3 feet tall. And I literally was pulled through the wall. And you can't take anything with you. And off you went. And it would be months before I got back in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No. And that's, it was so hard for us because we knew you needed to go back and get things. I mean, businesses, they needed either cash registers and things like that. They couldn't get things that were really important. How about with you, Donna, after the flood,
Well, I first heard about it. My son was living in New York City at the time, and I had been down there till about 6, and it started to rain biblically. I mean, it was just incredible. I had pockets full of water by the time I got down to my car, and people were laughing at me because, I was, I was really getting drenched because I never have an umbrella. And so he called me, and he said, Mom, I'm looking at this video on YouTube, and I kind of think it's your store. And my first thought looking at the video was, wow, I wonder how they did that. I thought it was CGI. I honestly did, because you can't wrap your mind around what you're seeing. And it was summer, and I had a sign in the window that said, make a splash. Oh, God. And it had different colored lights. Yeah, Mother Nature has a sense of humor. And you see the lights under the water, and then all of a sudden you see all the lights go out when the electricity went out. So first thing I did was call my husband, who was up at our cabin doing some repair work. And I said, you got to come home. It's gone. He said, what do you mean it's gone? I said, the store, it's gone. And then I sat around. I just couldn't just sit still. So I drove down and stood at the top of the street with a couple of the other business owners. And you were there, Allan, I remember. And you came over to me and just kind of took my hand and said, I have to warn you, there's nothing left. Brace yourself, because there's going to be nothing left. I'm getting chills just thinking about that. But that was sort of how it started. And I had one personal item in the store that I fretted over for the next 2 weeks, and that was my great-grandfather's mustache cup, because it said his name and then it said grocer. And because we are a food business and we took his town's name, I was worried about that. It ended up being the only thing in the store that wasn't broken. But I'm watching the news footage, subsequently, and I'm like looking at things. They're down by the river and they're showing video, and I can see my merchandise down there. I'm like, hey, that came out of my store. So was a real sense of unreality to it, because your mind just doesn't process that. But there was such we're all in this together. It was a very united effort, and we felt like we were kept in the information loop, that you could tell you genuinely cared, and you were there. Like I said, you came through it every day if you weren't working down there, and that really, I think, allowed us to feel that coming back was a possibility.
And that certainly was. We wanted to make sure everyone knew that we would do whatever we could, because I had heard stories about what happened in 2011, and I wanted to make sure people never forgot. And that's why we did many walks through West Main, because a lot of times folks in the West Main didn't feel that all the business district seems to get more, and we made sure almost every night that we walked through West Main every night to see what people needed. And that goes back to, we could use a dumpster here, we could use something over here, and then we could get it done the next day because we were walking around talking to people.